Thank you for listening to this Podcast One Sportsnet production, available on Apple Podcasts and Podcast One.
5 Hour Energy is energy on the go. Well, what if you're not going anywhere for a while? Then 5 Hour Energy is for getting stuff done while you're stuck at home, like doing an honest day's work for your boss. Getting rid of old clothes.
Oh, my old bell bottoms.
Scouring the grout in your shower. Working out on that old stationary bike. And so much more. Go to the store or order online at shop5hourenergy.com. 5 Hour Energy. Energy for hunkering down.
And on my right-hand side, player partner, who is you? It's your boy, Mustard. You must heard what it is. French's gang. Free my man Butter doing life in the box. Let's go.
Dr. Hockey.
Welcome to the Dr. Hockey Podcast. I'm Dr. Jay Calvert, and today I am joined via Skype as we are in knee-deep the coronavirus pandemic. I've got on the line my ever-faithful and EMG performing co-host, Dr. Jason Berkeley. How are you, Jason?
I'm doing pretty good. How's it going?
Good. How are the EMGs in the pandemic? Are they going okay?
Yeah, listen, these people have nerve damage, and they've got to get an answer to what's going on. This is something that's not, between that and pain injections, this is essential things that people need to get done. Recently I diagnosed a patient from an EMG with Guillain-Barré, which for those playing at home is quite simply just inflammatory demyelinating polyradicular neuropathy. So I'm sure everybody knows
that's
what that
good.
means.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I thought it was.
That's where, and now we have 0 listeners on this podcast.
No.
Congratulations. Good work, Jason.
Means that your nerves are starting to become severely damaged from inflammation, and it's something that could potentially be life-threatening, actually, because it could affect your breathing, and it is one of the few neurologic emergencies. So there are some situations where doing these nerve studies are potentially urgent and emergent, and it may not be apparent to people. So between that and just trying to keep people out of pain with injections and trying to get people, a little more comfort with this whole situation is, I'm trying to do my best.
Well, where your specialty is definitely essential, the rhinoplasty, boob job, and facelift specialty has been sidelined on a very, very wait and see kind of basis.
I think boob jobs are essential, personally.
I do too, but that's not the way that they're seeing it around the medical community here. So, thank you for your support. Joining us on the Dr. Hockey Podcast. Finally, with Jason in full score here, we've got Sean Pronger coming to us from isolation, doing life in the box. How are you, Sean?
I'm good, man. How you guys doing?
We're doing all right. We're concerned about you. We saw you were having to wait it out. When do you get out?
That remains to be seen. I've been told. I mean, I'd like to obviously get a test to get tested out, but. As you know, and are probably aware, getting tested is not that easy. I got tested once. So what I've been told is once I'm symptom-free, to give it like 3 more days. So if that's the case, I think today would be the first day I was symptom-free. So hopefully Thursday or Friday.
This is one of those major penalties. I've never heard of anything like this. It's a 14-day major penalty.
More than that. This will be, by Thursday, it'll be 21 days.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a major game misconduct.
It was a game misconduct. An extra 10 days added onto it.
Yeah.
What told you that you were sick? How did you know that this was this COVID-19?
Well, I was hoping it wasn't. I was traveling. I was in Canada on a ski trip, and I got back, and the next morning I woke up with a fever and, what felt like a sinus infection, chills. This happens to me all the time when I basically will do stuff and wear myself out, and then I end up getting sick. It's like once a year I'll do that.
Sure.
So that's what I thought this was. I went to my doctor, and he immediately said, you probably have the coronavirus. I'm like, Doc, I'd like a little bit more science behind that diagnosis.
You don't need it.
Your opinion in 4 seconds of talking to me. And he goes, Sean, we'll get you tested, but I can pretty much guarantee that you have the coronavirus based off nothing other than obviously your symptoms, but the fact that you traveled through like Vancouver, which is, like traveling through Seattle, which, there's a lot of international travel there.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was able to do that. So I got tested, and as it turns out, he was right. And I've been on lockdown since I got back. I got back the 11th at night, and I've been in isolation since the 12th.
Rough.
So what have your symptoms been at its worst? What have you felt?
Yeah, at my worst, it hasn't been that bad, and symptoms vary with different people, but mine was, I think my fever was a little bit over 100, which wasn't bad. I did have chills. My nose was stuffed up. I did have a cough. I can't say I had a sore throat, but what I noticed as I kind of progressed through it, my sense of smell and taste has been gone for quite some time, which I'm starting to get that back.
That's one of the
all my symptoms were very mild.
That's one of the hallmarks.
Caused me. I mean, if the doc didn't just tell me that he's convinced I had it, I would have thought nothing of it. But when you have it, it's I think you have a responsibility to kind of make sure you don't spread it. So that's what I've been deathly afraid of. Is I certainly don't want to infect my family, but then from who they might infect, has kind of made sure that I'm trying to doing things right actually.
When you've said you had a cough, did you have was it a bad cough? Would it just not go away? What was going on with the pulmonary?
It wasn't bad at all. Again, I've been way more sick. I've had worse hangovers in my life than this. The cough was like a dry cough, and then it kind of progressively got a bit worse, where it's more in my chest, but nothing that I haven't had before that was, again, way worse. My nose, I've been, stuffed up for, almost 3 weeks. That's probably the longest that's ever happened. But then outside of that, I felt like myself for probably the last 2 weeks. But again, I just didn't want to. He's like, if you have symptoms, do not go outside. So I'm like, all right, lockdown.
Well, that's and you got no treatment other than sort of the usual, like some Tylenol and stuff like that.
Yeah, he basically gave me. When I first saw him, he just said, "Here, let's give you the stuff for flu, like a Z-Pack and Tamiflu, in case that's all it is." So I took that for 5 days, and then my fever went away, but I still had the other symptoms as far as nose and chest and taste and smell, which I'm not sure are symptoms, but that's just
they are. Loss of smell or anosmia is one of the hallmarks of the condition in quite a few people. It comes back though, so don't worry.
Yeah. I think it's slowly coming back.
Yeah, I mean that's a very classic presentation, and the truth is you really don't need the test when you hear all that stuff. You say, yeah, right now in our community, if those are your symptoms with the travel, it's coronavirus until you prove it's something else. But
right.
At this point now, see the question is, are they going to start adding this hydroxychloroquine to the mix for people like you that are an outpatient? And obviously you didn't need it. But the people that are coming to the hospital, the reason for all this ventilator talk about why people wind up on the vent is that if they progress through at the 10 to 12 day mark into a very bad lung infection, they get a pneumonia that's really tough to beat. And so that's why the Z-Pack probably shortened your symptoms, also probably kept you from going further on, and you're a healthy guy. You don't have underlying conditions. So, you were, one of the people that can just kind of tough it out. But there have been a few missed cases where people showed up in the ER and they were sent out, and then they tried to tough it out at home. And then that cytokine storm, which is what we've talked about, which you're obviously way past this, they get into this, bad situation where the virus just takes over their lungs. They get this inflammatory response of their own body that just fills up their lungs with mucus, and basically they get a bilateral, both sides of their lungs, pneumonia that is, you have to be on the ventilator or you're just not going to make it.
And plus your blood starts to clot on its own without any type of inhibition for that too, which is a real problem as well.
Yeah, I mean, you are obviously not in the category where that kind of thing happens, but like your mom or your dad or anybody that's in their late even their 60s and 70s, their 80s, they're at very high risk for this because they just don't have the ability to fight the infection off like people who are healthy and younger.
Right. And the other thing was I did notice my breathing. Like I did have shortness of breath, but it wasn't just sitting around. If I would still kind of keep working out, but I could tell that something wasn't right with my breathing because I was getting shortness of breath where I wouldn't normally, in normal situations, I wouldn't normally get shortness of breath. But
right,
I could see how that would, if you were older or had underlying issues, how that could unravel quickly.
Well, and that's the thing is it does, and that it's really tough because I think they're still trying to decide what to do about identifying the people that are at risk and getting to them earlier, so that we don't need 30,000 ventilators in New York. But at the same time, like, you can save lives that way. If you do, the people that go on the ventilator, it's a 50-50 shot at this point. Before it was 80-20, then it was 70-30. Now it's 50-50 because they're doing early intervention and they've added the Plaquenil. So I think even at this point, you're going to see that number keep getting lower and lower in terms of survivability if you get to the point that you are one of the people that needs to be mechanically ventilated. So it's been crazy to watch this. Jason and I have been covering it every week on the Dr. Hockey podcast with a short reprieve for David Ayers, as we were talking about. But it's kind of what's on people's mind, and I think it's good to hear from somebody who's dealt with it and gotten through it, and nobody in the family's gotten sick. Correct?
That is correct. We've done a pretty good job there. Well, they won't let me come down, even though I try to. They're like, get back up there. So, we're lucky that our house has an upstairs, master bedroom where I've basically locked myself in. I put my mask on and gloves to go down there to get water. My wife's done an amazing job of, just delivering food a lot. I don't know if that's another symptom is constant hunger, but I feel like I've been sleeping more and eating more since I've been up here, and I wonder if that's maybe my body's way of defending itself is just I'm getting more sleep and I'm needing more food to I don't know.
It's also pretty typical for someone who's had a viral flu anyway. When you feel like you turn that corner, you get your appetite back, and it's just kind of a normal way you bounce back with that.
Well, and the other thing too is that you will be like when you finally come down out of the Rapunzel tower there, you're you're going to be deconditioned a bit, so you have to get back to working out slowly and all that, and it does you get it doesn't take long before people really start to their bodies change very quickly in a situation like that, and all of us
now,
who have been quarantined are.
Sean, I have a quick question. Is it true that you now have a friend named Wilson who was a volleyball up in your room with you?
Funny enough, I got a candle. A friend gave me a candle, and that's my Wilson. And ironically, I have a dog named Wilson, but he's one of the most annoying dogs you'd ever meet.
I think I met that dog, actually.
I have been talking to myself. Luckily, I've got my neighbor in the back alley that we overlooked that I've been communicating with. So every time they're actually now trying to hide in the front of their house so they don't have to deal with me all the time. But I'm like alley patrol, checking people out. Hey, it gets lonely up here.
I bet.
Left up here with no supervision isn't good either.
Right.
Well, it's not. Look, you're doing the right thing. That's for sure. Making sure nobody else gets infected. And at this point, you probably are virus free. So that's the good news. And, there is also there's no way, and, we'd like to believe we did a perfect job, but there's no way that the other people in your house did not get some low level exposure, so that you've probably conferred immunity on your family members, in sort of as a byproduct of your quarantine, because there's no way that all those dishes and plates and everything went back and forth and anything where it didn't sort of percolate through the house. And, that's what we were talking about with my daughter, who came back from a trip from France and definitely had coronavirus, back in February. And she was in the house with us for, 10 days. I had to keep her here an extra 5 days before she went back because she was just sick as a dog, like all kinds of respiratory symptoms. And obviously nobody could get a test at that point. It was in February, but, the family she sat next to was flying from China to Los Angeles, through Paris. and she got slimed by their kid,
Right.
and she got a